So reasonably quiet on first starter. Oil pressure running at 70 psi. 10 minutes after starting it up, just on idle. That's the oil pressure after 15-mile run. Tapping's still there. This is how I've decided I'm going to do it. I'm not recommending it to anybody. I'm just showing you what I'm going to do. It's not an instructional video. I'm just trying to determine which one of these is causing the noise. You press on with this Phillips head screwdriver. And when you get to this one, if I press really hard on that one, you get the noise, but definitely not much pressure, and none of these do that. So the other method I'm going to try is this listening stick, which I thought I'd put on the just there and then listen. Yeah, for me, those two are significantly different to the others, particularly this one. I understand that the procedure is simply that you start in the centre and you just work out a little bit at a time. I've already loosened it, and then just keep working so that it's all done as evenly as possible. I have looked at this valve train and checked them over as best I can. Nothing looks bent, nothing looks damaged to me. They all look just as I think they should look. The workshop manual, it does tell you about removing the tappets, disassembling the tappets by removing the plunger spring, and then it talks about cleaning and assembly or reassembly of those tappets. Unbelievable as it might be, it is possible to get it out. And there it is. I've actually removed those two there that serve cylinder number 1. And that would be the exhaust, I think, on the left and the inlet on the right. This is the hydraulic lifter. The swirling, I understand that's good. It means it's been turning on the cam. I guess one would say that is slightly pitted. And there's the hole where the oil feeds. I'm now going to take that apart. I watched a video of somebody else doing this, so I'm just copying what he did. Suction. And to get that clip out, this one here, to get that clip out was quite difficult to push that down against the hydraulic sort of lock and get that to release. I did it in the end. With mine, it had these little washers on. That small round circle goes against the top. In here, That's a valve, evidently. It does let oil go this way and not this way. I ended up blowing out the valve with compressed air that way in order to make sure that valve was clear. Also cleaned out that little hole there, made sure that was okay too. Another thing it was suggested I do on the forum was to check whether or not the push rods were bent at all. And I looked up online, and the one suggestion was you put two together and then you roll them looking for any air gaps between them. These all look pretty good to me. The other thing to look for, they suggested, was at the ends of the rod you should have a flat area, which this one has, and there should be a flat area there again, which this one has. So they haven't worn down, and these are from cylinder number 1, so they seem okay. Alright, that's in. Just about gently easing it in, and then getting this out without pulling one out. Okay, fed them down, making sure that they were the right way up as they came out. Nothing's been knocked out of place. So just to summarise, I've got this noise. It appears to be from one lifter. I think it's that one, although that one's not too clever, so I'm going to replace both. The noise isn't there when I first start in the morning, but when it warms up the oil pressure drops and the noise comes in when the engine's a little hotter. I've checked the exhaust manifold and that doesn't appear to be leaking anywhere. I've done some short journeys, and then finally I've done 45 miles continuous, varying the speed up to sort of 80 miles an hour, and still it won't play ball, it's not gone quiet. I've also changed the oil, and I've added some lifter solution fluids. That seems to have made no difference. And then yesterday I did some more tests. I did try measuring how much lift height was produced by these push rods, and there didn't seem to be much difference, but I have to say the whole process wasn't clever just because I was on my own. I've tried putting pressure on the push rods with that screwdriver. It seems to show that that very first valve is the one that's having a problem. And the best test of all, I think, was I used that wooden listening rod, which I placed on this valve rod here, on each of those points, and that was distinctly louder than the others. The others had a much more rhythmical sound to them. So as an attempt to resolve the problem, I've actually removed these two suspect lifters from here and here, and I've taken them apart. I couldn't find anything wrong. That didn't seem to make any difference. A lot of people have suggested that putting in new lifters on top of an existing camshaft is doomed to failure. It's going to ruin the camshaft, but I don't think I've got much choice at this stage. It's either replace the camshaft and all the lifters and redo the whole thing, or try for this easier fix, as it's reasonably easy to get the lifters out using a magnet on a stick. To mitigate any damage, all I'm going to do is warm the engine up, so hopefully I've got some oil already up there in the area where the lifters are from early in the morning. And the other stuff I'm going to use is a zinc additive, which is this one. I'm going to pour that on the lifters, cover the lifters in it, and I'm also going to drip it down into the slots where the lifters would go, and then that will drip straight onto the camshaft lobes on both of those. And I'm hoping that will help with the bedding in process after I've put the new lifters in. The bedding in process I'm going to use is one that they've suggested in various places online, is that you just, once they're all in place and the valve train is back on, you start the engine, you don't let it idle, you vary the RPM range from 12, 15, 1800 RPM and keep it there, varying it a little for about half an hour, and that hopefully that process helps bed the lifter in, and that's it. So I'm now going to take the valve train off and remove the two lifters and put the two new lifters in. One thing I'm not going to do is preload the lifters, where you load them with oil before you put them in, only because a lot of people say that you can get hydraulic lock and that can damage the push rods and the valve train. So I'm just going to let them fill naturally from the normal oil flow. And I understand the idea is simply that all you've got is the spring to start with, but it will gradually fill with oil until it's reached the correct oil pressure and on the push rod. I'm only doing two lifters. A lot of people suggested replacing all of them, but I just think that if there's a possibility of something going wrong, if I only do two, that reduces the points for error to just those two lifters. If I did all of them, all 8 lifters, then I've got 8 points of error as opposed to just 2. So those are the 2 lifters that are out. I've looked at them before, they don't look bad to me. But I'm no expert on any of this. So those are the 2 lifters that I'm now going to replace. I'm going to install these 2 of these lifters from Summit Racing. There's not much guidance that you get online, but also to try and get some onto those 2 cam lobes that are down there. So I've just attached a pipe so that I can get it onto the lifters. Covered the lifter with oil, that same zinc oil, so I'm just going to install both of those on the camshaft. The new ones are now in, and I'm just going to put push rods in and the valve train. Putting on the valve train is just about constantly working along, gradually doing up the bolts by hand, a little bit at a time. And sometimes, like this one, I've gone too far and I'm going to have to undo it so that the push rod goes into the indentation on the rocker. When it comes to installing the shaft, it doesn't actually give you much guide. The torque on the shaft bolt is 25 foot-pound. So this is it on first startup. I'm just hoping that valve noise will go as the tappet builds up oil. Well, that valve noise, tapping noise has just gone. Just have to see what happens now in the next 25 minutes.